I'm Rob Forbes. I'm the president of AIDN, and it's probably worth noting that AIDN stands for Australian Industry Defence Network, and AIDN National is the umbrella group which heads up the other state chapters and state and territory chapters around Australia. Its basic responsibility as it sees it is to achieve more business for Australian defence companies, and by defence we are thinking of defence and security. It's spread across the types of work that flow through defence and security, from the people who actually make systems, electronic systems, to the people who supply the subsystems and components for those systems, to the people who do the servicing, and the people who actually do some of the manufacturing. Well, there's more than 850 members across Australia, the SMEs, and the breakdown it's a bit hard to estimate because different people use different categories when they're talking about it. But in terms of manufacturing and support, I'd say about half of them are in that area. There's quite a few people who are, say 200, who are developing software and to help run the systems, and another 200 and so who are doing the support and maintenance of the various systems, both electronic and mechanical. In terms of its strategy, it divides it into 3 or 4 categories. First of all, the prime thing is advocacy, to advocate the capabilities of our members, first of all into defence, but secondly, then that's the advocacy. Then it does a sort of representation and business development, and that mainly is making sure that the companies are being prepared in a professional manner, so that they've got competent staff who are trained in the new activities which are appearing in defence, but also so that they are eligible for global supply chain and the other international operations. So in that way, we also conduct representations from those people to other countries to help develop their export capability. That's the building up and the professionalism, representing them. We do communications, and that's a two-way process. We like to communicate from the members. We like to hear communications from the members about what's happening in the industry and how they think that we're working and the things that we can achieve. We like to communicate back to the members, and the key elements of that are the changes that are happening in defence, because there are a lot of changes at the higher level which will influence the operations of our members. You've got to remember that when we're talking the defence industry, it's not just defence, it's the defence and security, and in some ways they're a separate, that is a separate subsection. And so within the defence, we've got companies who basically try and support the capability of the Australian Defence Forces, and there are companies, and that's either in the mechanical or the platform section, or the services and systems that go onto those platforms, and secondly, to make sure that our security, our transmission systems and our electronic transmissions are as secure as we can make them, and that's where the cyber security group come in. But in addition to that, when we're talking about the capability of the Defence Force, the Australian Defence Forces, we must remember that there's not just the armaments and the weapons that give them capability, or the uniforms or whatever the other systems are. There's an infrastructure without which, such as buildings and vehicles, without which they wouldn't be able to work with the capability they have. So all of those sort of things fall within the category of our members and the opportunities we seek for them. The number generally talked about is somewhere between 26 and 30,000. I would say the advocacy has been one of the key things, and is to make the government aware of the importance of the SME grouping in order to provide capability to defence. And during that time, and we've seen during the last decade, we've seen a 180-degree turn from the attitude of government to being concerned that the defence companies, including the SMEs, were just out there to profit themselves and not worry about defence, to a realisation that not only are especially the SMEs concerned about and passionate about providing capability to the Defence Forces, but can do it in an innovative manner. Now, we can't claim that to be a success, but it has been our advocacy that has, I think, raised the issues and has been an important catalyst in bringing some of that 180-degree turnaround. Every sort of group is, we have a different comparator to. The AI group tends to focus on what we like to call the larger end of town, which is basically the primes and the large companies, and therefore they're not going to have the interest of the smaller SMEs so much in mind, except to the extent that it helps them. And we try and work with AI Group to ensure that we've got a cooperation which spreads across the whole of the industry. In terms of the other advocacy companies, I think it's the breadth of our, so much our knowledge, but the breadth of our contacts within the industry. There's no other advocacy company, advocacy organisation that has a national spread, and even if it does have some sort of nominal national spread, it doesn't have the depth of membership and therefore the depth of information that's coming to us. From the posture of AIDN National, the key things are expectations. It's first of all managing the expectations both of Defence, what it can actually achieve out of the people and the group servicing them, but secondly managing the expectations of our members about what can be achieved. There's a lot of hype at the moment about how much defence spending is happening, and that's certainly the case. The government's talking the talk, and in terms of managing the expectations of our members, we have to make sure they walk the walk. So they're the key parts. That's the key part of the key issue that's facing us. Understanding what the expectations are on both sides and trying to manage them, and then deliver the capability to support the expectations of the Defence Forces. From the terms of the expectations of Defence, what we've got to make sure is that any roadblocks or barriers which prevent or inhibit our members from actually performing the services aren't there. And the obvious example is the security clearances. It's very difficult to get security clearances in a timely manner, and it's very difficult to get work unless you've got an active security clearance. That's a sort of simple issue, but it's also the time that it takes and the lack of certainty in contracting. So often we see programs which are scheduled for a certain time to be awarded, and then sometimes they do, over a period of time, we've seen those drift into the future. That makes it very difficult for our members to plan to have the resources available at the crucial times. So they're the sort of things that difficult. We need to get Defence to understand and to make sure that they're performing to the expectations of our members. And then looking at from the other side, the key thing is the professionalism and the understanding of our members of the importance of having a national having a national approach to things. Certainly from Defence, we're seeing that they're taking a much more national view of how companies should operate and how the defence services should be delivered, but from now the members need to understand that they will need to react and think in that basis. In professionalism, when the Defence understands, or the government understands, that the key thing that the SMEs can offer is innovation and agility, but they also the government needs them to act in a professional manner, that's particularly important in terms of working with the primes, who are much larger international companies, who have expectations of a professional structure and operation, which some of the smaller companies haven't quite worked out, and also the smaller companies need to understand better how they can work with Defence, how they can approach the bidding, how they can approach the defence capability people, and get an understanding of what their products are and their services are.